Discover how an unexpected encounter with a single mom changed a billionaire's life forever. Ethan Carson stood at the edge of his world, an iron fortress cleverly disguised as a skyscraper, his name emblazoned on the glass facade like a trophy. He had it all: wealth, accolades, and the unyielding respect of his peers. Yet as he gazed from the summit of his empire, a gnawing emptiness began to creep in. The bustling streets of New York City vibrated beneath him as laughter and life thrummed through his mind, but he felt caught in a thick fog of loneliness. The million-dollar deals and luxurious parties seemed distant as shadows of an unfulfilled reality. He was losing sight of what truly mattered. On that chilly Saturday morning, the winds were sharper, whispering doubts into his ears. What did it mean to win at life when you had no one to share it with? As he descended the elevator, each floor felt heavier. Uncharacteristically, he decided to volunteer at a local shelter, an impulsive break from the relentless corporate grind. The idea appalled his high-powered friends. What a waste of time, they would say. But would they understand this strange, wistful pull? Stepping into the warmth of the shelter, Ethan was enveloped by the laughter of children mixed with the burdened sighs of their parents. It was chaotic, vibrant, and all too real. Amidst this swirl, he caught sight of Maya, a single mother with a heart as fierce as her will. Her smile, though brittle, flickered with resilience that pulled Ethan in, her presence igniting unfamiliar feelings within him. The stark contrast between them was dizzying. She was fighting to stay afloat while he was drowning in emptiness. Their exchanges began with trivialities but soon dove into depths that made his soul quake. Discussions about dreams for their children, choices made in sacrifice. Around Maya, his icy armor cracked. With every return to the shelter, Ethan found pieces of himself resurfacing that he'd buried beneath wealth and ambition. Her laughter haunted him, and it beckoned him into uncertainty. A fragile thread formed between their worlds, pulling at his identity. Was success merely a measure of bank balance? But soon whispers of his shelter volunteering leaked into the world above, landing heavy in the midst of high society's scorn. Amidst cocktails and silk ties, Ethan faced ridicule. Helping the underprivileged Ethan? What's next? The mocking laughter twisted his gut, torn between loyalty to his status and a newfound empathy that threatened to tear down layers of his constructed persona. He grappled with an unsettling truth. He didn't want Maya's world to slip away. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With pressure mounting, Ethan decided to propose a donation to the shelter, eager to lift burdens from Maya's shoulders. But instead of gratitude, his elite colleagues unleashed a tidal wave of scorn. On a stage of flashing cameras, Ethan stood paralyzed, riddled with shame. His empire began to tremble. Friends became foes in an instant. He could feel his carefully crafted identity fracturing as he watched everything he built become the subject of ridicule. In the chaos that followed, a family secret unraveled. His mother had been a philanthropist, a champion for single parents who sought hope against despair. The revelation struck like a thunderbolt, throwing Ethan into an emotional tempest. Torn between the gilded cage of his past and a richer inheritance of purpose, he wrestled with the weight of belonging and the courage to redefine himself. Just as the shadows of doubt closed in around him, his phone vibrated in his pocket, an insidious reminder of impending doom. A lawsuit loomed, a barrage aimed at his integrity, a final blow in a burgeoning storm. In that moment, the anguish of abandoning who he'd been clashed violently with the call to authenticity. Standing at the precipice of transformation, Ethan confronted the lurking question. Would he break free or succumb to the overwhelming tide dragging him back? Ethan stood alone in his sprawling penthouse, the city skyline looming outside the grand windows. Each glimmering light felt like a reminder of the values he had once held so dear: wealth, power, dominance. Now, they only served as a stark contrast to the crumbling reality of his life. The indignation of his peers echoed in his mind. What have I done? He contemplated, frustration churning within him. The simple, genuine interactions he'd experienced with Maya haunted his thoughts, pushing him away from the shallow appreciation of life's trappings. In the face of uncertainty, his answer bubbled to the surface. A donation wasn't enough anymore. He needed to confront the deeper issues at play, not just for himself, but for others like Maya, who were fighting against a system that often left them defeated. The thought of taking real action emboldened him. The old Ethan would have scoffed at the very idea of connecting with people so far removed from his sphere. Yet now it ignited a flame inside him. With a newfound determination, Ethan outlined a plan. He would host a fundraiser, showcasing the shelter's work while raising substantial funds to provide resources for single parents in need. He envisioned it not just about money, but creating awareness, a bridge between the two worlds he had previously deemed incompatible. With every line he wrote, he fortified his resolve. This was more than a publicity stunt. It was a commitment to authenticity, a reclamation of his identity that had been buried under years of apathy. Yet, as he strategized, unease lurked. The impending lawsuit loomed ominously. What if this endeavor only added fuel to the fire? His mind wrestled with the potential backlash. Could he withstand further scrutiny? Would he risk losing everything he had worked tirelessly to build? The vague outlines of fear snaked around him, but he steadily pushed them back, reminding himself that vulnerability could invite a strength he had never imagined. Ethan secured a venue, the opulent ballroom of one of the city's most prestigious hotels. Amidst crystal chandeliers and deep mahogany, he envisioned a night that would change conversations, upend perceptions, and inspire. After silent hours spent drafting invitations, he was electrified by the confidence washing over him. This could be the turning point, and he was ready to embrace it. As the night approached, doubts threatened to resurface. Staring into the mirror, he scrutinized his reflection. Was he still the cold, calculating businessman? Or had he morphed into something more? With each passing moment in front of that mirror, he noted the subtle changes. His shoulders were more relaxed, his posture less rigid. A flicker of pride replaced the familiar blend of anxiety and fear, one that could lead the way into an unrecognizable future. The event unfolded with anticipation palpable in the air. Friends, associates, and complete strangers gathered, a mixture that made Ethan's stomach churn. Old acquaintances exchanged whispers tinged with skepticism. When he stepped onto the stage, the weight of the night pressed down on his shoulders, but he took a deep breath, confident he would navigate through it. The moment he opened his mouth, words flowed out unshackled. He spoke of the lives affected by systemic failures and shared the intimate stories of the families he came to know through Maya. The silence from the crowd was deafening. Even the skeptics stopped to absorb his authenticity. Despite the knot tightening in his throat, each story propelled him forward. Then, a familiar face in the crowd caught his eye. Maya. She stood at the back, her warmth radiating like a beacon of hope. Her encouraging nod fortified him, enhancing his passion. The realization struck him. It wasn't just about the funds, it was about connection. He was no longer just a billionaire seeking redemption. He was a man yearning for belonging, clarity, and purpose. As the applause erupted, a pulse of energy surged through him. But as his gaze settled on those present, he realized the whispers didn't entirely fade. Some remained, sharp with judgment. The enormity of his transformation resonated, but so did the reality that the storm of the lawsuit was still brewing, threatening to overshadow this moment of triumph. After the event, a message arrived on his phone, a reminder that the lawsuit was not just a storm on the horizon, it was upon him. The time had come to face the consequences of his choices, not just from his past, but from this newfound alignment with his values. The true test awaited, and it loomed larger than anything he had encountered before. Would he find a way to navigate through this impending chaos? Or would his journey into authenticity fall victim to the very empire he sought to redefine? Ethan awoke the next morning, a dull ache festering in the back of his mind. The echoes of applause from the night before lingered, Yet so did the ominous reality of the lawsuit that waited like a vulture. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring blankly at the polished wood floor. Volatility clenched within him, a stark reminder of how quickly triumph could cede to turmoil. He had taken a step towards alignment with his values, but now he was poised at the edge of a chasm. Feeling the weight of unresolved conflict, he reached for his phone, checking for any updates concerning the lawsuit. A string of messages from his attorney lay unread. His hand hesitated over the screen. Communication now felt different. Words seemed tainted with a fear he hadn't embraced when he took the stage before. Confronting this would be a battle far more personal than any negotiation in a boardroom. Ignoring the urge to delay, he scrolled through the notifications, finding a reminder of their next meeting. "We need to plan our defense," his lawyer had written. The words felt sterile, devoid of the vibrant spark tangling with his newfound desires. Its gravity threw him deeper into introspection. This was about facing himself. How he chose to respond would define him more than any dollar amount or public accolade ever could. The day stretched out before him, heavy with potential. Thoughts of Maya invaded his mind, brightening the otherwise gray landscape of his ambivalence. He envisioned her smile, the warmth of her laughter, a beacon guiding him away from the cold steel of his former empire. Yet the enormity of his choice settled around him, pressing down. Could he really stand against the possible backlash without resorting to the old Ethan, who thrived in the shadows of power? Or was there a way to emerge that kept the light of his authenticity intact while confronting those forces? Determined, he decided to reach out to Maya, to draw on her insights. She was grounded in this fight after all. Picking up the phone, he hesitated before typing a message, an invitation to lunch. No corporate venue, no stilted conversation amidst marble and glass. Just a genuine space to reconnect over shared purpose. The sun blazed overhead as he headed toward the cafe, the scent of fresh coffee filling the air. Each step registered with resilience. Where once he had hurried to meetings, now he walked as a man casting aside the trappings of a life built on illusion. Maya arrived, her expression a perfect blend of curiosity and warmth. They exchanged pleasantries over steaming cups, yet Ethan felt the undercurrents of unspoken truths tightening the space between them. "Ethan," she finally said, her voice steady yet probing, "what's really going on since the fundraiser? I sensed something different in you, something vulnerable." His heart beat faster. The very trait he feared being judged for now hung in the air like an invitation. Insecurities bubbled to the forefront as he unwrapped who he was becoming. He shared about the lawsuit, the fears intertwined with vulnerability, and the swirling anxiety that threatened to drag him back into the abyss. Maya listened, her eyes penetrating, and he felt the raw reality of their shared struggles interlace. "You've already proven change is possible, Ethan," she offered softly. "But confronting this is not just about facing your empire. It's about standing in your truth." "Do I have it in me?" he questioned, doubt creeping back uninvited. "What if I fail? What if I seem weak?" "Strength isn't about having all the answers," she replied, leaning closer. "It's about being willing to show up, to fight for what matters, even when you're scared." Her words resonated, amplifying the internal rallying of his spirit. The battle wasn't merely against the lawsuit or societal scrutiny. It was a conflict of identity, the essence of who he would ultimately become. As the conversation drew to a close, he stood on the precipice of an unfamiliar territory, where courage met vulnerability and shaped the path forward. Leaving the cafe, determination solidified in his chest. He would stand firm against the storm, but not alone. With Maya's words echoing in his heart, he realized a fundamental truth. This journey demanded more than courage. It required a willingness to redefine his legacy. But before he could fully embrace the path ahead, an unexpected phone call interrupted his thoughts. A voice from the past, one of his business rivals, demanding a meeting. The tension flared once more. Would he confront yet another enemy in the shadows, or would he transform this encounter into an opportunity for genuine resolution? The stakes were rising, and he knew that each decision could either build a bridge or set fire to the very foundation he was trying to reconstruct. Ethan felt a pulse of adrenaline surge through him as he stepped out of the cafe, the heat of the afternoon sun pressing against his skin. The call had been abrupt, a stark reminder of the world he was trying to escape. Despite the recent emotional awakening, there was still a looming presence from his previous life. A business rival, seasoned and sharp, eager to regain control over the narrative and perhaps dismantle the fragile peace Ethan was attempting to build. His mind raced as he considered the implications of this meeting. Should he confront the past head-on, or adopt a more diplomatic stance? He sensed an internal struggle brewing between the urge to fight and the desire to rise above conflict. This was no longer just about business. It was about defining who he was becoming. Arriving at the designated location, a sleek, chic restaurant nestled in the heart of the financial district, Ethan took a deep breath. The opulence surrounding him felt like a trap, reminding him of the values he had sought to abandon. As he entered, the glint of polished surfaces and the hushed conversations coated in the smell of expensive cologne surrounded him, yet he pressed on, trying to steel himself against the familiar sensations that came rushing back: anxiety, defensiveness, and the overwhelming impulse to assert dominance. He spotted Noah, a rival whose reputation for ruthlessness was legendary, already seated and scanning his phone. Ethan's stomach tightened as he approached. With every step, he recalled the battles fought in cold conference rooms, where intimidation had been the weapon of choice. Today's intent would be different. "Ethan," Noah greeted, saving his eyes from the screen, his tone a blend of feigned warmth and underlying calculation. "I didn't expect you to take my call. Quite a leap for a man in the midst of a lawsuit." The subtle jab landed harder than intended. Ethan's determination faltered for a brief instant, but he steadied himself. "I'm here, Noah. Let's discuss it." As he took a seat, he found himself questioning not only their conversation, but also how far he had come since last engaging in such tactics. This was no longer a game for him. It was a necessary encounter to test his resolve. "I want to know what you plan to do next. With your recent actions, it seems you're not the only one facing scrutiny. There could be stronger forces moving against you." Noah prodded, his eyes narrowing in on Ethan's reaction. "I've chosen a different path. Success isn't just about winning anymore," Ethan replied, forcing the confidence in his voice. "Is that so?" Noah smirked, leaning back. "You think you can play pacifist and still hold on to the empire?" Ethan felt the heat rising, challenging Noah's disdain. It would be easy to fall back into the familiar role of defense, to re-establish the aggressive aura that had once defined him. He contemplated the audience, two men at opposing ends of the moral spectrum. The stark contrast between his yesterday's self and today's aspirations pressed on him. Would attacking this meeting with his new outlook allow him to transcend the old Ethan, or would it unlock the very insecurities he worked hard to bury? Instead of lashing out, he decided to seize the opportunity. "Perhaps the empire wasn't worth holding on to if it meant compromising my values. I'm focusing on building something more significant." Noah studied him, a flicker of surprise passing through his cold demeanor. "Are you saying you're interested in partnership? Because if you think I'll simply bow out, you're mistaken," he retorted, a note of challenge in his voice. Ethan realized in that moment that he was no longer battling just his past. He was confronting the full reality of who he was evolving into. The fight had shifted, but the stakes remained high. Not partnership, change. "For myself," Ethan responded. This newfound conviction felt powerful, but the weight of Noah's presence pressed down on him like a vice. The rivalry could either spiral into another conflict or pivot into a strategic alliance with shared interests. Could he navigate this without losing sight of what was true to him? Just as their exchange intensified, a sudden commotion caught Ethan's attention. A woman nearby, balancing a tray of drinks, stumbled, sending them crashing to the floor. Everyone turned at the sound, life weaving in and out at the very moment he needed clarity the most. "Ethan," came Noah's voice, pulling him back. "Your move. How do you want to play this?" As he opened his mouth to respond, a surprising resolve ignited within him. A path less traveled blossomed on the horizon. Would he walk the line of collaboration with someone he once considered an enemy? The prospect of genuine resolution hovered before him, a breath of fresh air against the suffocating walls of corporate conflict. With the sound of glass shattering fading, Ethan felt the shift of his journey into an uncharted territory, realized through the chaos. This meeting needed to redefine not only his strategy, but also his understanding of legacy in its purest form. Would he seize control of his narrative in a way that allowed transformation, or would he retreat back into a darker reflection of who he had been? The answer loomed just out of reach, waiting to unveil itself at the next vital moment. Ethan's gaze was now hardened on Noah, but the unexpected sound of clattering glass still echoed in his ears, a reminder of the tenuous balance he was trying to navigate. In that moment, his mind raced, wrestling with uncertainties and possibilities. He wanted to refuse Noah's game, to sidestep confrontation, yet there existed an undeniable allure in the challenge. "Let's not waste time on idle threats, Noah," Ethan replied, feeling an unexpected steadiness within himself. "Instead of a partnership, consider this an invitation for dialogue. We can either battle, or we can explore what might work for both of us." Noah's eyes narrowed. For a fleeting instant, Ethan thought he saw a flicker of respect, perhaps even curiosity. They both understood that the stakes were far greater than mere ego or financial gain. "What's there to discuss? You know where I stand and what I want." "I'm well aware," Ethan said, cutting through Noah's bravado. "But I'm asking if you would consider a third way, an arrangement that accepts our differences, yet acknowledges the common ground we cannot ignore. This isn't just about our past. It's about how we can shape the future." Silence settled between them, the hum of the restaurant fading into a backdrop of uncertainty. Ethan took a breath, feeling as though everything he had worked to redefine was on display. How often had he been caught in the illusion that power, once wielded, was unshakable? The chaos from moments before felt strangely appropriate. Unpredictability was the one constant in their world. Noah leaned forward, muttering, "You think you can change the game with words? Change doesn't just happen. It requires sacrifice, and not everyone is willing to pay that price." "So what price are you prepared to pay?" Ethan countered, feeling the challenge electrify the air between them. "What does winning mean to you if it costs you your integrity?" Noah's smirk faded, replaced by a contemplative crease in his brow. Ethan recognized this moment as pivotal, not merely in the context of their negotiation, but as a significant personal reckoning. For so long, he had measured his worth in victories and relentless ambition, relentless to the detriment of connections and society at large. "Maybe you've deluded yourself into thinking you can sit at the big table without playing the game," Noah challenged. But even in his dismissal, there was recognition that Ethan had shifted the tone. "No, I'm choosing to play a smarter game," Ethan replied earnestly. "One where I redefine the rules. Power is no longer just in who you dominate, but in who you uplift. What do you gain by being a tyrant?" This challenge brought a tangible tension into the room. Noah was momentarily taken aback, facing not just a rival, but a man who had pivoted to leverage the very mechanism of conflict as a source of growth rather than destruction. Ethan watched as a myriad of emotions danced across Noah's expression, from disdain to intrigue, and finally to something resembling uncertainty. "Let's face it, brother, the world out there won't give you that option," Noah finally said, attempting to sound dismissive. Yet something deep lingered between them, challenging the very foundation of their lives. With a subtle shift in his demeanor, Noah spoke again, this time with a hint of candor. "You really think you can just walk away, a different man, while I'm left to run this ship with all the scars? What makes you think I'm not on a journey of my own?" Ethan's mind swirled with the implications of self-discovery they had both undergone. Perhaps Noah, too, was beyond redemption. Perhaps there existed more layers to their rivalry than he had been aware of. "Because I see your potential to evolve, to break free from this cycle," Ethan dared to say, finding the courage that stemmed from genuine introspection. It was a risk to confront Noah on this level, to reveal vulnerability, but he understood that true progress required grappling with uncomfortable truths head-on. As Noah absorbed this, eyes narrowing with deliberation, the tension in the air shifted. Ethan had shifted from viewing this meeting as combat to engaging in a deeper dialogue, a chance for transformation. But just as the moment began to solidify, The waiters resumed their routine, returning to moments of normalcy that contrasted sharply with their exchange, reminding Ethan that clarity could still be elusive. "Are you ready to really explore this, or is this just another round of power play?" Noah asked, and in that simple question, Ethan felt both the thrill of a new path and the latent fear of revealing too much. Uncertainty loomed around the corner of this moment. Would Noah see the value in this engagement? Or would the old competition resurface to derail Ethan's budding aspirations for change? Determined, he straightened his shoulders, prepared to stake everything on dignity and authenticity. And with the pressure mounting, he realized a choice lay before him: to take the plunge into an awkward alliance that felt as daring as it was daunting. Would he seize the moment and transform this meeting into an opportunity for self-actualization, while potentially revolutionizing their antagonistic relationship? As those thoughts swirled in his mind, an unexpected figure suddenly approached their table, drawing both men's focus. Whoever this was might just have the power to tip the balance of not just their conversation, but of everything they had both built. Would this encounter redefine the course of their lives entirely? Or would it lead to another dead end? Ethan blinked, momentarily disoriented, as an older woman approached the table, her presence a stark contrast to the tensions mounting between him and Noah. She wore an air of unapologetic determination, her eyes sharp yet soft with warmth. There was something familiar in her demeanor, a kind of resilience that echoed deep truths of sacrifice and personal evolution. "Gentlemen," she began, her voice steady as she addressed both men, "I'm here to talk business, but more importantly, I'm here to talk about choices." Ethan raised an eyebrow, intrigued yet cautious. He was acutely aware that this woman had just pierced through the charged atmosphere, and rather than extinguishing the flames, she seemed to add fuel to their simmering conflict. "Who are you?" Noah asked, irritation tangible. "Lydia," she replied, undeterred. "And I've been watching you two dance this delicate waltz of power, trying to carve out a path in a world that is shifting underneath your feet." Ethan sensed her confidence rolled into compassion, urging him to look beyond his preconceptions. He had spent countless hours perfecting his persona, wearing ambition like armor, viewing interactions as clashes rather than connections. But Lydia stood there, a testament that life often unspooled in unexpected ways. "Look," she continued, her gaze shifting between the two men, "I've fought battles on my own. I'm a single mom trying to build a better life for my daughter, and the lessons I've learned in desperation matter. You may have power, but power without purpose is a hollow shell." For a fleeting moment, Ethan felt his defenses wavering, as though her simple yet profound truth prompted him to interrogate his motives. Was he building a legacy worth having, or was he merely repeating the patterns that had led to previous failures? "Why should we listen to you?" Noah asked, his tone laced with skepticism. "Because I'm also here as a consultant," Lydia replied, her stance unwavering. "You want to reshape your futures? Then you'll need to rethink everything. Power is only one tool in the toolbox of life." Ethan could feel the tension shift in the room, as though the walls were closing in and altering the atmosphere completely. Lydia had burst into their personal battlefield and brought with her a different kind of energy, a challenge directed not just at their dynamic, but at the very essence of who they were becoming. "What do you propose?" Ethan asked, driven by a gust of urgency. He could feel the undertow of opportunity. Perhaps this was the turning point he had unknowingly sought. "Success is built on collaboration, not combat," she stated, her voice resolute. "You both have unique strengths. Let's leverage them rather than lock horns." Ethan's thoughts collided, each one challenging him to reconcile what he had believed to be true. Was it possible he had been wrong about the very nature of competitions? Was collaboration truly the more powerful approach? For the first time, he felt the prospect of working alongside Noah not as a burden or a destructive engagement, but as potential for growth, a chance to transcend their rivalry, to redefine ambitions together. His discovery began pulsating with the urgency of an awakening, echoing Lydia's message of purpose. Noah seemed caught off guard, shifting in his seat as he processed Lydia's words. They both knew the risks. An alliance could either strengthen them or expose their vulnerabilities. Ethan was suddenly aware that their interactions had reached a critical juncture. The fear of what could be, tangled with the elation of newfound possibilities. "What's the catch?" Noah demanded, trying to mask the hesitance behind his usual bravado. "There's no catch," Lydia replied. "Just an opportunity to rewrite your narratives. You can choose to remain adversaries or embark on a transformative journey. But know this. Any success gained from this path requires authenticity. This isn't just business. It's about building a legacy rooted in integrity." Ethan nodded slowly, the gravity of her words taking root. He had spent his life behind walls of self-interest and competitiveness, yet Lydia's vision offered a glimmer of hope, an invitation toward a path of genuine collaboration. "Are you in?" Lydia asked, her eyes shifting back and forth between them, urging a response. The challenge resonated within Ethan, stirring a deep contemplation of his priorities and desires. This moment was akin to a fork in the road. Would he surrender the outdated notions of success that had plagued him for so long, or would he take the plunge toward a more meaningful future? And as the silence stretched between them, Ethan recognized that a decision must be made, a choice that could alter not just the course of their lives, but the lives of those connected to them. In that silence, hope mingled with uncertainty, forging a precarious bridge toward the unknown. Would he dare to cross it and trust in Lydia's vision? Or would old habits overshadow the exhilarating opportunity for growth that lay just ahead? Ethan's mind raced, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He looked at Lydia, her unwavering gaze seeming to penetrate his very core, and then shifted his focus to Noah. The air was thick with tension, a palpable mix of skepticism and curiosity. How was it that a single woman could see through the veils of their competitive game? What did she even know about their world of decisions made in boardrooms and trade-offs masked as strategic moves? "All right," Ethan finally broke the silence, attempting to project confidence despite the turmoil within. "You've piqued my interest. Let's explore what this collaboration looks like." The unsure tremor in his voice contrasted sharply with the determination in his heart. He was stepping onto untested ground. "What about you, Noah?" he prodded, turning to face his rival, now potential ally. "Are you willing to let go of the past and join us on this new path?" Noah's eyes narrowed, wrestling with a storm of emotions. Their history was replete with bitter clashes, orchestrated sabotage, and verbal blow-ups, years of enmity hard to erase in an instant. Yet Ethan recognized that Noah's hesitation mirrored his own childhood struggles of trust. Beneath layers of bravado lay a vulnerable core, perhaps yearning for validation too. "Fine," Noah grudgingly replied, his tone begrudgingly consenting, a thin smile flickering on his lips. "Let's see what you have in mind, Lydia." Lydia's expression softened, emboldened by their tentative agreement. "Great. We're not going to redesign your entire business model overnight, but we'll start with the principles of collaboration." She laid out her vision, weekly brainstorming sessions, transparency in decision-making, and a shared accountability that would foster personal and professional growth. As Lydia spoke, Ethan's imagination painted vivid images of what could be, a merger of their strengths, a confluence of ideas that wielded the potential to create something remarkable. He found himself surrendering to her guidance, moving past the instinctual reflex to compete. Yet despite the enthusiasm bubbling in his chest, deeper doubts began to surface. Was he truly prepared for the vulnerability that collaboration demanded, a level of openness that he had long avoided? Still, the prospect of finally stepping off the treadmill of raw ambition to embrace a more profound purpose took root. "Let's set some goals, something tangible we can work towards together," Ethan suggested, his confidence growing, bolstered by embers of past success mingled with new hope. He could feel a surge of energy racing through him, a new direction blossoming from the ashes of his old ways. It was time to not just exist in the game, but to redefine the rules. As the trio began to outline their first project, a sense of momentum began to build. Each exchange sparked creativity, revealing untapped synergies. Ethan was surprised to find that Noah's ideas, once frustratingly competitive, now complemented his own. But just as the dialogue began to flow, a text flashed across Ethan's phone. an alert from a finance publication spilling the news of a leveraged buyout they had been angling for. Ethically dubious but desperately needed to rejuvenate operational capacity back at his firm, yet it threatened to derail his newfound commitment. Taking that opportunity might mean sacrificing the authenticity Lydia had urged them to embrace. He felt the room start to swirl around him, the exhilaration of collaboration at risk of drowning in the isolating waves of past choices. Would he confront this moment with integrity, or fall back into the all-too-familiar patterns that had once defined him? As he gazed at Lydia and Noah, their enthusiasm contagious, he thought deeply about his next move. The foundation for change was crumbling under pressure. He stood at a precipice. Pressure mounted. What choice would define him in this critical juncture? In that moment, the event horizons of their futures converged, teetering between opportunity and betrayal. Would he stand firm in his commitment to authenticity, or allow old demons to drag him back into the shadows? With uncertainty looming large, he took a breath, preparing himself to confront what lay ahead. The choices he made next could irrevocably reshape everything. Would he seize the momentum built on collaboration, or plunge back into the depths of self-serving ambition? The answer lay just within reach. Ethan felt the weight of his decision crashing down like a tidal wave. The phone buzzed insistently, drawing his attention back to the screen, the headline glaring at him. Each word felt like a conviction. The opportunity was lucrative, but came with a heavy moral cost. Dismissing the notification, he focused on Lydia and Noah, their minds teeming with ideas. A flicker of inspiration ignited once more. What if their collaboration could lead to a paradigm shift, not just for the three of them, but for their companies and beyond? Let's frame our discussions around a shared purpose, Ethan proposed, brushing aside his inner turmoil. What if we create a project that not only impacts our bottom line, but also gives back to the community somehow? That could redefine how we see our businesses. Lydia's eyes sparkled. Absolutely. A project entrenched in social responsibility could attract both consumer interest and investor confidence. It could be an expression of who we are moving forward. Noah, eyebrow raised, still skeptical but intrigued, chimed in. You mean a joint venture that combines our resources for something meaningful? It could actually differentiate us in a crowded market. Ethan nodded vigorously. A collaborative approach honed on their competition could serve as an iron-willed foundation. The energy shifted in the room. The tension that had bound them in previous meetings was being masked by curiosity and the prospect of creating something greater than themselves. But was he doing this for the right reasons? A moment's introspection revealed a worry that he was simply attempting to mask his temptation towards selfish ambition. Ethan recognized he was battling the remnants of his previous mentality. His life had hinged too long on the axiom of winning at all costs. Could he really transform that competitive instinct into a force for good? As they brainstormed, Ethan felt an unseen weight clinging to him. The temptation of the buyout looming just beyond the horizon, whispering a siren song of easy redemption. It tugged at his mind every time he thought about scaling the new project. The doubts crowded his thoughts, whispering that he might never have this chance again. The kind of game-changer that could catapult his firm into uncharted territories of success. Let's not just make this about profit, Lydia said softly, directing Ethan's thoughts back to the present. What if we choose to measure our success in how many lives we touch? By creating job opportunities, advocating for sustainability, or supporting education initiatives for underprivileged youth? Her words resonated deeply within him. Maybe this was the shift in perspective he needed, to define success not solely by numbers, but by the impact they wielded in the broader tapestry of their community. What better way to intertwine their businesses with a purpose that transcended individual ambition? Noah seemed to catch on, turning his gaze between them. If we can pull this off, our companies could be seen as innovators rather than just profit-driven entities. That could reshape our reputations. In that moment, Ethan realized that this new direction might also offer a path to redemption for himself. He could be the architect of his own legacy, rather than merely another player in a relentless game. There was a profound awakening in him, one that believed he could bridge the gap between his past mistakes and future possibilities. The room buzzed with ideas, a palpable energy replacing the apprehension, But as they sketched out their plans, Ethan's phone buzzed again, a reminder of the looming buyout, this time with a series of aggressive reminders and demands from his board. He was pulled back into a tempestuous reality, standing at a crossroads. Should he stay the course, confront the board with his newfound values, or chase the siren's song of financial gain, a path that threatened to unravel the collaborative spirit they had just begun to forge? The room seemed to close in, their bustling excitement contrasting starkly with the chaos in his mind. He inhaled deeply, realizing that this moment may indeed carve the lines of his story. Would he let greed dictate his path, or choose to lead with purpose, setting a new standard for his life and career? Suddenly the stakes felt higher than ever. As the plans began to crystallize, the pressure mounted. Ethan pondered not just how to navigate the business world, but how to reshape his identity within it. What would he choose? An old way that had failed him, or a new dawn built on integrity, community, and collaboration? The answer felt elusive yet critical to his evolution. As their session concluded, Ethan could feel the beat of change in the air, but his mind remained trapped between two powerful narratives. The impending decision would soon force him to confront not only his aspirations, but also his very identity. As he looked at his newfound allies, uncertainty and determination clashed within him, waiting for one last push toward resolution. In that moment of stillness, the question burned deeper. Which Ethan would prevail as the dawn of possibility broke on the horizon? Ethan left the meeting, his thoughts a turbulent whirlpool. The weight of his decisions pressed on his shoulders as he navigated the dimly lit hallway. He had sensed the shift in energy, the excitement sparking between Lydia and Noah, yet within him lurked a growing doubt. Would this project truly be a redemptive outlet for his ambitions, or an elaborate ego play dressed in altruistic pretense? As he stepped into the parking lot, the evening air washed over him, fresh but tinged with lingering uncertainty. He needed clarity, a moment of respite. Instead of driving home, he found himself gravitating towards a nearby cafe, the glow of its windows inviting him in. Inside, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with soft chatter. Ethan settled into a corner booth, the muted ambiance providing a comfortable concealment. He stared at his phone, the gazes from Lydia and Noah still echoing in his mind. They believed in a vision, one larger than any of their individual pursuits. Could he? His phone vibrated, jolting him from his thoughts. He glanced at the screen, a new message from his board, pressing for an answer on the buyout. The urgency clawed at his resolve. He rubbed the bridge of his nose, frustration bubbling. While the buyout represented financial security, what lay on the table with Lydia and Noah held promise, an opportunity to redefine success on his terms. Suddenly he caught a glimpse of a young woman sitting at a nearby table, her focus solely on a toddler playing quietly with colored blocks. The weariness in her eyes was evident, but so was a fierce determination, as she encouraged her child to create something new. Ethan's heart shifted. Here was a woman fighting for her child's future amid the chaos of everyday life. Her situation illuminated a truth he had long overlooked. Success was not merely about profit margins, but the ability to build hope and opportunity. He returned to his own thoughts, pondering the shared purpose he spoke of earlier. What if he could infuse the project with the very essence he saw in the mother: resilience, vision, and authenticity? The tension in his chest eased slightly as the concept crystallized. This wasn't just about their companies competing for revenue. It was about cultivating a community that inspired strength and opportunity. But how could he bridge that vision with the demands of his board? His every instinct screamed to drive the narrative towards simple gains, to protect his bottom line at all costs. Yet looking at the mother, determination etched on her face, he wondered if leadership meant taking risks that might disrupt the status quo. With renewed vigor, he opened his notebook and jotted down thoughts, strategies for fostering real engagement with the community, ways to tie their business goals to societal advancement. Commitment to a cause could transform their companies in ways vertical growth never could. Yet just as clarity washed over him, doubt crept back in. Would his board accept such a change? Could he implement these ideas without losing everything he had worked for? The prospect of facing them with such revolutionary proposals sent a shudder down his spine. As the mother caught his gaze for a moment, a flicker of understanding passed between them, fleeting yet profound. He had a choice to make, one that would define not just his career, but the person he became. Fingers poised over the keyboard, he began drafting an email to Lydia and Noah, laying out a plan that sought honestly amidst the mire of commercialism. But before he could hit send, the door to the cafe swung open. His heart dropped as he recognized the figure stepping inside, Mark, his board member and staunch advocate for the buyout, his presence a reminder of all that could go wrong. Ethan's pulse quickened, and just like that, the moment of decision condensed into another confrontation. How would he handle the impending clash of ideals? Would he stand firm in the face of pressure, or capitulate to the fear of losing what he built? As he locked eyes with Mark across the room, uncertainty thundered within him, and the weight of the moment bore down once more. Would he rise or fall under this scrutiny? The stakes had escalated, and the battle between ambition and integrity loomed ever larger. Ethan sat frozen at his table, the energy of the cafe twisting into a palpable tension as Mark approached. Each step felt like a jolt of electricity through his body, a reminder of the corporate game he had so desperately sought to escape. As the seasoned board member slid into the seat opposite him, the weight of expectations settled heavily in the air. "Ethan," Mark began, a glint of eagerness in his eye, "we need to talk about the buyout. The team is eager to capitalize on the market surge. This is our opportunity." Ethan felt the internal struggle rise within him. The prospect of quick financial gain drummed in his mind, tempting him back into the familiar embrace of profit over purpose. But was that truly the direction he wanted to steer his life? The mother from the cafe lingered in his mind, a quiet reminder of authenticity and the greater good. "Mark, I've been thinking." He paused, feeling the weight of his words. "This is a critical moment for us. It's not just about the buyout, it's about shaping a legacy. I want to create something that stands for more, something that impacts lives, not just numbers." Mark raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched across his face. "You're talking about idealism when we're sitting on potential profits. The board won't accept a pivot away from what's already agreed upon." Ethan inhaled deeply, charging the words with resolve. "Then let's confront the board together. I believe we can marry ambition with purpose rather than sacrifice one for the other. We have a chance to redefine our narrative, to make an impact while still being profitable." Mark leaned back, catching the challenge in Ethan's tone. "You've changed. This isn't the Ethan I know, the one who would do anything to win." "Exactly," Ethan replied, the fire of conviction igniting within him. The old Ethan was stuck in a cycle of competition and imbalance. What if we could be the leaders who fight for integrity? What if our companies could elevate our communities instead of exploiting them? There was a moment of silence, the sheer audacity of Ethan's vision hanging in the air. In a world that often thrived on callousness, he proposed a path towards alignment with his core values. The thought filled him with a burgeoning sense of clarity and purpose. "You really think the board will buy into this?" Mark asked, still cautious, yet undeniably intrigued. "I need you with me on this," Ethan stated firmly. "I believe we can reshape our companies by embracing authenticity. It's time for us to shift from competing with each other to collaborating for something more significant. A joint venture that prioritizes community engagement can spark change at a scale we've never considered before. Remember Lydia? The meeting she facilitated? We can build on that." Mark's expression shifted, reflecting a hint of possibility. "You're proposing we present a united front to the board, showcasing an initiative that isn't just about us, but about giving back." "Absolutely," Ethan replied, invigorated. "This is a chance for us to champion an ethical approach, something that could change how clients view us and usher in a new era for our companies. Let's establish a community project coupled with our business plans. It's a game changer." A flicker of resistance conflicted with intrigue in Mark's eyes as he absorbed Ethan's passion. The walls he had built around corporate survival slowly seemed to crack. "All right," he said, leaning in with newfound intensity. "What's our first move?" Ethan could hardly believe how far he had come. The transformation swelling within him was now cascading into action, grounding him in newfound purpose. He felt a surge of energy course through him as he began articulating the plans they could initiate together. Ways to engage deeply with underprivileged communities, developing job training programs that could connect the unemployed to burgeoning job sectors. In that moment, Ethan wrestled with his past successes and the inadequacies that had previously defined him. He was rising, determined to both confront his own demons and forge something lasting. The meetings, the partnerships, the commitment to authenticity, it all fell into place. As they spoke, the doubts that had once threatened to consume him began to dissipate. The support of Mark, however tenuous, strengthened his resolve to lead with purpose. Once their plans were outlined, Ethan's excitement only grew. They discussed potential partnerships, funding options, and ways to garner community interest. Together they formulated a presentation for the board that couched profit within purpose. A visionary beacon in a landscape often dominated by fear. With a sense of urgency, Ethan sent a message to Lydia and Noah outlining their conversation, eager to enlist their support. This was no longer just about him. It was a collective movement towards something greater than his previous ambitions. As he powered down his phone, a wave of liberation washed over him. He wasn't just battling for his success anymore. He was advocating for change that would create ripples beyond his immediate sphere. In that moment, he could feel the transformation solidifying, a sturdy foundation built on integrity, collaboration, and the courage to sacrifice short-term gain for sustained impact. Ethan stepped into the future with confidence, energizing a shared vision among allies in a world where authenticity was often a rarity. The lawsuit was still an obstacle, but now it felt manageable, an opportunity for further growth amidst the storm. He realized then how far he had come, not just in business ventures but in his very soul. Leaving behind a legacy of selfish ambition, he forged ahead into a future defined by collective authenticity. Through unwavering commitment and newfound courage, he proved to himself that he could achieve what he once deemed impossible. He was not merely Ethan Carson, the billionaire. He was a change-maker poised to redefine success. As the sun set behind the skyscrapers, bathing the city in warm tones of orange and gold, Ethan embraced the beauty of the intricate interplay between ambition and humanity. The legacy he would craft was no longer stained with shadows of isolation. It thrived in the light of connection, purpose, and authentic engagement. This renewed vision sang a chorus of possibilities, each note resonating deeper within as he declared the war on complacency won. He understood now that success without gratitude, community, and genuine engagement remained empty. He stepped out of the cafe, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, confident in his transformational journey, eager to build a tomorrow where true fulfillment triumphed over mere performance metrics. The future was his to shape. Now, as he looked out onto the promised horizon, he knew one thing for sure. Personal transformation is the true essence of success, and he was ready to lead the charge. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.